Michigan football may not have set the record in terms of NFL draft picks overall taken, but it did set a team record with 13 players picked over the 3 days going from Thursday through Saturday. We're going to discuss a bit of the NFL draft, some ridiculous rival takes, and all of that on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
New intro. How about that? We are back and doing a Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Finally, a whole normal person who can walk, who, what you didn't know, had a cold there for a few, and all of that. So did not make it down to Detroit for the NFL draft, thanks to both the back as well as the cold, which is unfortunate. But I did, like a lot of people did, and watched it from home, covered it from home. I would have been nice to have gone down to Detroit and experienced everything, which I'm sure that a lot of you did, because it just looked like an absolutely fantastic atmosphere. And that's, especially with the city of Detroit, that's the type of thing that I want to witness. But clearly there was a Wolverines flair in the draft, not just in the fact that there were Michigan led the draft with 13 draft picks over the course of Thursday through Saturday, but also with the team being recognized on day 2. That was pretty cool. That was a big event, obviously, to be able to parade around with the national championship trophy, get that type of honor. It's funny because those are the types of things I feel like we're not really thinking about, right? Like every now and again, it kind of crosses my mind of like, I got to remember to like keep some of my money aside for potential travel to Washington, D.C. for the team visiting the White House, right? Like that, I don't know for sure that that's going to happen or not, but I mean, that's usually what happens. And Michigan certainly dominated everything. JJ McCarthy, obviously, we've known this for several days now, number 10 overall to the Minnesota Vikings. If you're a Michigan fan, you love it, especially considering all the weapons he has around him in Minneapolis. It's where he wanted to end up. If you're a Detroit Lions fan who also roots for Michigan, you kind of hate it. So put me a little bit in the latter camp as well as a bit of the former camp, right? Like I love it for JJ. It's so great for him. I hope he never beats the Detroit Lions ever. And I say that obviously loving and adoring JJ. He really truly deserves everything he gets in a good way. He is just such a genuinely good person. This is where it's with the rivals and the way that they act. It's kind of like they get so upset over things. And obviously there's a fake quote going around saying things that he said about Kirk Cousins, which is upsetting MSU fans. It's not something that he said. But they're getting all up in arms and they're like, typical JJ. Well, actually, that's very atypical JJ. JJ would give even like the most hater type Ohio State, Michigan State player, or not player, but fan, the shirt off of his back. One thing that he did even too, I'm going to share just a little tidbit of something to show you just how great of a dude he is. I don't think I've shared this before. I don't know that I'm supposed to share this, but I'm going to anyway, because I think he deserves, he's not going to pat himself on the back, but he deserves to be pat on the back. So in December, if you recall, I was talking about this charity event through my church that we were doing called Blaze for the Holidays, in which I partook in. We needed sponsors, right? To where we were eating blazing wings. It's not as many as fast as you could, but it was like I think it was like 12, and you had like 5 minutes to eat all of it or whatever. And you know, someone was a winner as far as the actual competition, and someone was a winner in terms of fundraising. I ended up winning in terms of fundraising because of two people, Donovan Edwards, and even more so, not to diminish Donovan's contribution, which was huge, but JJ McCarthy. Now, Donovan came to the event. It was supposed to be Donovan and JJ. So obviously a lot of people in my church are big Michigan fans, and they were like, oh, that'd be cool if you could do it, because we read your stuff, we watch your show, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, like, of course, you know, I'd be glad to do it. And I'm like, what if we can get some Michigan guys? So I texted Donovan and JJ in particular and asked them what their availability was. JJ, this was in like October. JJ's like, I'm all about it. I'm all in. That's going to be in a time period where we're going to be kind of in limbo because it's after the Big Ten championship game, all that kind of stuff. And turns out that he couldn't. He was kind of a little bit under the weather coming into it, right? So like 2 days before, it was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Day before, same thing. And then day of, sorry, man, I'm not going to be able to make it. Unfortunately. Okay, that's fair. But then, like, after he tells me he's not going to make it, I get a message from the coordinator of the who's handling the fundraising for, now this charity was to help Prism Project, which helps girls who were that were victims of sex trafficking. Okay, so JJ was all in with that, and then so I get a call from the woman who handled all this. And she's like, JJ just donated, I think it was something like $1,000 or like $1,500 or something like that. Like a lot more than I thought was even possible. It might have even been 2,000. I don't remember, but it was like my jaw hit the ground. He is truly as genuine of a person, and like he's like when you see like him being nice and everything, like that is really truly who JJ McCarthy is. So it's I couldn't be happier for him. Obviously, lots of other guys went. Day 2 featured 6 players that went, I believe. JJ was the only one in day 1, but 6 guys in day 2. You had 2 back-to-backs, so you had the 2 back going back-to-back, and then there was the back-to-back-to-back. For those who saw me complaining on social media, it wasn't because I didn't want Wolverines taken. It was because when someone gets taken, there's an order of operations of things that I suddenly, it's you're called to action. I have to do this. Now, I had pre-writes for all those guys. But when you have to do that and you have the things that we were supposed to do as a network, which is like reactions pieces to all those guys being taken and everything, and you get the back-to-back-to-back, that's a lot to handle all at once. But lots of Wolverines off the board there. Chris Jenkins, obviously, being the first on day 2. But to see Blake Corum, Mikey Sainristil still in particular, those guys taken in day 2. I mean, you couldn't be happier for them. Obviously, Blake, fan favorite, and certainly I think people are going to really see what he can do when he gets to the Chargers. Sorry, the Rams. Wow. LA, not wrong team. When he gets to the Rams, and I just feel like we saw the actual Blake Corum at the end of the year in the last 2 games. I was just talking to my best friend about this. Like literally, he was like, I got to go. And I'm like, one last thing, because we were talking about the playoff run. And it was like, one last thing. Didn't we see really, truly the Blake Corum that we all kind of knew and loved on the like his final touchdowns? Because he was like, I really wish that Sainristil still would have been able to take it home, the interception, get the touchdown. I said, well, that would have been nice. It was kind of fitting that it was Blake, and that Blake had another one of his vintage long runs. We're just making everybody miss. I think that they are just going to be absolute rock solid players in the NFL. I mean, I think that most of these guys will. But day 3 obviously featured a late run, right? You had AJ Barner, and then it was just kind of like a long waiting process, to see the rest of those guys go. It felt like they were going to be stuck around 10, and then you just see a bunch of guys get their opportunities. And from some teams that we don't normally see, the Titans taking Jalen Harrell, the Panthers taking Michael Barrett. Like, these are teams that we don't normally see taking Wolverines. There's just some teams like the Jaguars or the Falcons that you just generally don't see Michigan players on, where it's like this, you're going to see them with the 49ers, the Steelers, the Cowboys. It's just kind of funny how that tends to work, right? But let's continue talking NFL draft, and then we'll get into some. There was a fun thing that the Cleveland Browns did. There was a bunch of weird rival things that were happening over the weekend. I want to give you my thoughts on some of those, or ways to dispel some of their narrative, because that's kind of part of what we do on this show these days. We'll do that here in just a moment. Before we do, all right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much more to get. Unique stickers that you can trade with a friend, to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing places to travel the boards with, pieces to travel the boards with, rather. hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win, or rent frenzies. Monopoly is one of my favorite games. It's a blast to play Monopoly Go. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench. Go download Monopoly Go from Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, so we are really truly in the offseason now, right? May is literally Wednesday. That's fun. So get your Justin Timberlake memes handy. Actually, you can change those to Dusty May, who added a guy and subtracted a guy today. Added Vlad Golden. Now they got two really high-end centers on this team, but George Washington 2, 3, George Washington 3, the third George Washington. He re-entered the transfer portal. So another spot has opened yet again. I didn't see that until like 2 seconds before I started doing the show. It happened like 3 hours ago, I think, as well. I was on my walk with Zuri. So anyway, you can say it's going to be Dusty May if you are so inclined. I don't recommend it. It's a bad saying. Nonetheless, we are really going to get into it, but I am going to... my vow to you on this show is to do it as many, because we're supposed to, I think, in May, start going down to 3 days a week. If I can do 4 or 5, we're going to do 4 or 5. And we're going to do it reverse of how we normally do it, where it's just we're supposed to do 5, we're going to do 2 or 3. I'm going to try to give you as much content over the summer because I won't be traveling around as much. I won't have as much stuff going on, being called to different places and stuff like that. With that in mind, we'll try to give you as much as we can. And I'm also going to try to do a lot more recruiting stuff this year. So that's just some programming notes as we move into May. The goal is to give you more rather than less, whereas sometimes I'd give you quality over quantity. At least I try. I don't know if it is quality, but I try to make it quality. So 13 players drafted from Michigan. It was a heck of a late run. You love to see guys like Junior Colson and Cornelius Johnson end up reuniting with Jim Harbaugh. You know that they're going to figure into the 53-man roster. Obviously, Junior is going to. It's going to be a little harder as a 7th-round pick for Cornelius, but he'll probably make it one way or another because he knows exactly what Jim's going to be wanting to do offensively, right? And then you got Carson Barnhart joining as a undrafted free agent. Like, that's just house money, right? Like, it's not surprising. Here's one of the things I pointed out on one of my articles here, is that being an undrafted free agent isn't necessarily the death knell as it maybe once was. You see those guys kind of come up, even just being like, it used to be like if you were on day 3 or what was now considered day 3, if you were like 4th round and below, like your chances of making a team were really low. But then you look at a team like the Lions, it seems like they get the most out of their guys wherever they're picked. So you look at undrafted free agents. I mean, look no further than Josh Metellus, right? Devin Bush has not really done a heck of a lot in his career, but his high school teammate and college teammate, Josh Metellus, went from being a undrafted free agent after being a 2-star at the time of his commitment to Michigan, works his way in the starting lineup very quickly, is an undrafted free agent, and then ends up being a starter at safety, a team captain for multiple years, all that kind of stuff. So it would not surprise me with a guy that comes in and already kind of has the learning curve advantage. Like Carson Barnhart knows the type of offense that Jim Harbaugh is going to be running, almost assuredly that he'll be able to make that type of impact. But essentially kind of gone is the narrative that everyone had that Jim Harbaugh is going to will the Michigan team to have the most draft picks of all time. Didn't happen that way, certainly, but he did pick 2 Michigan players. I was just kind of surprised at some of the guys that didn't end up going, but it's not surprising that Junior Colson, he's someone that you can build around. You kind of felt like Blake Corum would eventually end up being a Charger. I just felt like that was obvious, hence my flub in segment 1, but ends up being a guy who goes to the other team, the more premier team, to be honest, in Los Angeles. Because really the Chargers should be in San Diego. Let's just be real about it. They should be in San Diego. It's unfair. If you want to split the difference, put them in Orange County somewhere. I don't know where. It's not problem. Well, I guess there's more room inland. Make them the Rancho Santa Margarita Chargers. That would actually be pretty cool. I love Rancho Santa Margarita. Make them the Inland Empire a little bit more. The Corona Chargers. If you want some alliteration in there. But it's it was good to see all these guys have their dreams kind of happen. Zach Zinter among them, going to the Browns. And with that, we'll transition into what the Browns did that angered Ohio State fans and certainly made Michigan fans very happy. If you didn't see it, the Browns, in celebrating their pick of Zach Zinter, posted several pictures of him wearing a Michigan uniform. And it said that had a caption saying, Zach Zinter is bringing his winning ways from up north. It was worded better than I'm giving it. And I'm not going to look it up. It was hilarious to see the reactions on that. Because, there's two obviously NFL teams in the state of Ohio. Ohio as a state is galvanized with Ohio State, split with its NFL fandoms, right? I know a lot of Ohio State people. My friend Dave Biddle, who I know people want me to malign, I will not. But he obviously covers Ohio State. Obviously, he roots for Ohio State. But he also roots for the Cincinnati Bengals, which, by the way, is becoming Michigan South in a real quick hurry with their pick of Chris Jenkins. Side note, I do want to mention when I told Sarah was going through all the players that she knows, right, through some of the stuff I brought her on the NIL. Chris Jenkins was obviously the first one. She's like, where did Chris go? And I go, oh, he got picked by the Cincinnati Bengals. And she goes, ew, Ohio. And she forgot and asked me again yesterday. She's like, where did Chris Jenkins go? And I said, Cincinnati. And she's like, ew, Ohio. And I was like, oh, Zach went to Cleveland. She goes, ew, Ohio. So, and keep in mind, she's not a sports person, so it's just funny to have that. But at the same time, it was, Cincinnati and Cleveland aren't exactly the same, right? Like Cincinnati's kind of its own thing in a way. Like I think with them having the University of Cincinnati there, it's not a city that is just overrun with Ohio State fans, right? There's certainly a lot of people in Cincinnati that are like, we don't want any part of whatever that is you're doing north of our borders. We are our own thing. We are the state of Cincinnati otherwise. So it's that's a little different when it's Cleveland that's making that joke, right? Because Cleveland is the one that I would venture to guess the majority of Ohio State fans get behind. So but just to show you that rivalries should not be that serious in some ways, right? It should be a fun thing, right? Like, I gotcha, type of thing. Mike Hall got drafted with the selection the Browns had before Zach Zinter. And if Mike Hall, he's the one who was pushed into Zach's leg that broke it. And the two were up on stage together talking, not, being, good teammates. Like, yeah, we talk about it, type of thing. Like, saying, oh, we're brothers now. One of them said, I think it was Zach that said that. We're brothers now. That's how that type of thing should be, not whatever this weirdness that is emanating from Ohio or East Lansing, which is just, it's a weird hatred. And I feel like most of you Michigan fans, I feel like you are more of the, we got you, or, oh, we'll get you next time, right? Like that's the experience I've at least had growing up a Michigan fan, going to Michigan, and then being an alum of Michigan over the years. And it doesn't necessarily work out that way, which is why you see so much coping, like just so much coping. I want to get to some of the funniest things that I saw on social media regarding the draft and Michigan from rivals and the ways that you can combat them. I mean, you can see the ways you can combat them right online, but we'll talk about it here. And we're going to do that here in just a moment. Before we do, it is playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. And guess what? Major League Baseball is now in full swing. And FanDuel is your place you can bet on every single thing, every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's right. Just make a bet. If you're a new customer, make a bet, and you get $150 to play with. Super amazing deal. Super fun time. Highly recommend. Personal stamp of endorsement on that. But on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that's safe, secure, and also super easy to use. Also pays you instantly. Take advantage of that before you get machinations in your head like I did. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're going to continue on here in just a moment. Before we actually do that, mentioning baseball. You know, I saw a lot of people going down to Tigers games during the draft, right? Like really taking the full advantage of their Detroit situation over the weekend. It really looked like a sublime type of scenario. There's a way you could have done that really a lot easier than otherwise, I guess you could say. And that would be by getting your tickets through Gametime. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even easier as well as faster. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch. It's the reverse of what you see on a lot of these other sites that give you their grand promises. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the personal guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. My favorite thing is the seat views. You can know exactly what you're looking at, exactly what you're going to be seeing. You can do the whole scroll-around thing, so don't get all mixed up. I remember once I bought tickets off of some random third-party seller. We're talking like 2006, 2007-ish, for a Tigers game. I thought that I was going to be having some nice low seats. That's probably why I got such a good deal on it, because I wasn't. I was sitting up in the rafters, section 345. I should have known by the number. I was not being smart. I was in college. I was probably on something. Alcohol, not drugs, okay? But you don't have to worry about that with Gametime, okay? You do not have to worry about that with Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest price. Guaranteed. All right, so lots of hilarity coming from the internet. The one thing about covering the NFL draft, if you're a writer, is that you have to be very tuned in, especially when you have players remaining. Now, it's one thing if, like, we've got 3 guys who are eligible, really. You know that maybe there's 2 guys aren't getting drafted or something like that. But you got 3 guys that are eligible and they all go in the first 2 days. Okay, now you can sit back and relax. Or but I haven't had that happen, really, in my time covering Michigan in the NFL draft. So you have to stay completely locked in to some degree, at least to the point that you're seeing every single pick go through. For most players, I had pre-writes done. There were a couple that I kind of lagged on, and won't tell you who, but there were a couple that I was just like, I don't know that they're going to get drafted, or I can wait. I can wait on that. But most of them, I'd say 90% of the guys that got drafted, there were, I think, 2 guys I didn't have pre-writes for. That said, you're tuned in, right? You have to sit there then for like 7.5 hours on Saturday and just sit there and watch, like, okay, this guy's being picked. This guy's being picked all the way through, because you don't want to miss the point where you post your article. And, still one of the ways that I kind of like kept myself alert was just kind of scrolling Twitter. And I saw some hilarious things during and after. One of them I had tweeted about on Saturday because it was hilarious. I found this on Message Board Geniuses from Spartan Mag, where and I saw other people saying the same exact thing, that NFL programs better watch out because the Michigan players aren't going to be as good because they're not going to know the entire what the play is, every single play across from them like they did last year. Like the overstatement, actually, I'm going to go ahead and give rival fans a heck of a lot of credit here. I'm going to go the other way with it, because they seem to think that these Michigan players were all had photographic memories and incredible genius. They knew the entire playbook And not only were they getting their play called in, they thought they were also getting the play of the other team called in, and they had memorized on a week-to-week basis the entire playbook for other teams and went and took what I would actually say is not amazing advantage of that, right? Like if you know the exact play that's across from you, essentially you should have like 100% success rate on that. But Michigan didn't do that, but they do give the credit that these guys are savants all across the board, offensively and defensively. And I think the fun part with that is, and this is kind of what I had tweeted, is the fact that they give so much credit to themselves as rival fans and no credit to NFL GMs who apparently, in their eyes, are 100% oblivious of all this. They heard all this and they're just like, they just don't even know, right? They don't even know. They didn't turn on the news once. And then, so they just assume that all these guys are just free and clear when it turns out they're super geniuses that have memorized the playbooks of the 15 teams that they played and just absolutely went to town on them, won a championship, were good only solely because of that. And it turns out that once they get to their respective teams, that they're just going to fall apart because the talent that they had in in their college career, that's not something that they're going to be able, because Connor Stanley's isn't going to be with them. He's kind of like the cipher that helps pull together this super genius. Unfortunately, he won't be there with them, so they won't have that ability in the NFL to memorize every other team's playbook and to be able to hear, obviously, because they can memorize the team's playbook, but they also have to hear what the play is first. That's the only way they can do it. The other fun part is seeing lots of different takes of Michigan not breaking the record. Michigan broke the school record by having 13 players drafted, the single season NFL draft record for the school, but not for the NFL draft set by Georgia at number 15. Michigan is now fourth for the most players going. I think a fun fact there is, yes, Ohio State has had more. They had 14 in I think it was 2016 that they had that. And then the 2004 they had, no, it's 2004 they had 14, and then they had like 11 or something like that in 2016, or 2017, whatever. I think the fun part with Ohio State is when you look at the list of the teams that set the NFL draft record, everyone had won national championship the year before, except for the times that Ohio State's mentioned. I think that's kind of funny. But lots of this talk of like, haha, you didn't set the NFL draft record. I saw some people being very serious about it, being like, no, you don't understand. You were crowing about it. It's like, well, Jim Harbaugh did say they could. Yes, they didn't. They came too short. Still, I mean, 19 guys went to the NFL. They had 6 guys sign as undrafted free agents. So that's still a pretty good deal for Michigan, right? But I thought there were some reaches that didn't happen did happen that kept some Michigan guys off. I was kind of surprised some of the guys that didn't get drafted and seeing some of the guys that got picked. But as far as that goes, it's like, okay, well, why do you care? If you're an Ohio State or you're Michigan State, especially if you're a Michigan State fan, you had Nick Samak picked. That's it. Why do you care? What's the big deal? Michigan still had the most players picked this year in the draft. They had the more Michigan players picked in the history of any draft, but they didn't have the most in the NFL draft. There's not one Michigan fan that's like actually upset about it. So I don't know. It's just funny. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back on Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. Peace.